Hello there, this is Sarah from Crafty Creatures, here with our tutorial on how to make our beautiful spring burlap wreaths. Now these look intimidating, but they're actually really nice and simple to make. They're really fun, and depending on how you do our final steps, you can also change them up for the season. So to be able to make this, we're going to need our burlap wreath, and this is nice metal. We'll be working with these. We'll need 3 pieces of wire. We'll of course need some burlap, some scissors, our flowers and ribbons, and our little bird if we want to add that little bird because it's so cute. And you may want a hot glue gun if you have one. If you would like to make yours interchangeable, you're not going to use glue, but if you want yours more permanent, we are going to use a glue gun. Alright, so first things first, we're going to take our wreath and we're going to take our burlap. We're going to start by, we're just going to unroll just a bit. You don't really want to unroll more than a foot of burlap at a time, otherwise it will get really tangled and twisted. Just work with a little bit at a time. So once we have our burlap, we're going to fold it in half at the end. We're going to fold it in half a second time to make it into quarters. And then what we're going to do is we're going to poke it through that first ring, just around next to that bracket, and we're just going to fold it in on itself. You can flip it over to make it a bit easier, and we're just going to skewer this wire through, and we're going to twist it onto itself around that metal ring. Give it a few twists to make it nice and secure. We're going to leave them long because we're going to hopefully come back to this spot when we finish. Just makes it a bit easier. And then we're going to lay our burlap like this. We might have to twist that a little bit. Now doing the loop parts is nice and easy. Just going to go from the underside to the back side of our wreath. We're going to take 4 fingers and we're going to shove a whole bunch of the burlap wreath through. Just like that. Now to make it nice and consistent, you're going to want to push through roughly the same amount of burlap each time. And you want to make sure you have the full width of the burlap. And then we go to the next ring, and again we use 4 fingers and we just push and pull some of that burlap through. I'm just going to push mine under like that. So what happens when you pull off too much, it gets a little bit twisted. And I'm just going to adjust till I'm happy with the amount of burlap I have coming through. And then again for our 3rd ring, we are going to pull some more through. Now as we do this, we might shorten or lengthen the other loops, so we just kind of adjust them as we go. And there we go, we have our first set of loops. Now when you get to your final ring, what you're going to do, it might slide out on you, is you're just going to pinch it at the back, give it a couple of twists, and then you're going to come back down right beside that first loop, and you're gonna just shove some more burlap through. So already we're starting to get some of that shape, and just by twisting it at the back, it's going to actually hold itself together quite a bit. It might slide around while we're doing our first couple of layers. It takes a little bit to start to fill it out, but once you start getting going, it becomes very simple. So once you have that second one in right beside our first ring, you're just going to make sure your burlap is spread out to your liking, and you're just going to again pull some burlap through and make sure you get that full width of the burlap through the second ring, and again through the 3rd ring. Now 2 is the absolute minimum times you can layer between each bracket. I really recommend doing at least 3. 2 looks very loose, 3 is kind of the middle, 4 and 5, like 5 is the absolute max, 5 gets very tight and compacted. 3 and 4 is kind of that nice sweet spot of just enough burlap so you get a nice shaggy look, like in here, but not too much that it takes you forever. So I have 2 here. You can always remember by just counting how many widths of burlap you have. And of course, since we're at that 3rd ring, We fold it, give it a couple of twists, come back down to that first inner ring, and just pull some more through. And again, we pull some through on the second ring. And then again on the third. So this is how it looks with 3 widths of ribbon. At this point, you know, you can kind of poke some in, pull some out, play around with it till you get it exactly the way you want it. But if you were happy with this amount and you don't want to do another row, what you're going to do is you're just going to repeat the process. But then instead of going within this bracket, you're going to go to the next bracket. Now, when you go to the next bracket, you have to make sure you're 100% happy with this section because you won't be able to fiddle with it once you go over here. If you're really unhappy with it, of course, you can just pull the whole thing out and start again. But I am pretty happy with 3, so I'm going to go ahead and start on my second bracket here. Now, depending on how many loops width you're doing each bracket, you may run out of burlap, and if you find you're getting quite close to the end of your burlap, just flip it over, and you're just going to use one of the other pieces of wire, and you're just going to fold and quarter the end just like we did at the beginning, and you're just going to attach it around one of your rings just like we do in the beginning, and then you skewer your new end of burlap onto that wire there. And there we go. Looks really nice. We took it all over, make sure, you know, it's nice and consistent. You can always tuck in or pull out a little bit here and there. Once you get to the end, what you're going to do is you're going to take the end of your burlap. I had just barely enough to do my wreath here because I was using one that was already opened. You're just going to fold and quarter it, and you're going to skewer it onto that initial piece of wire. And this time you're going to twist it around several times to get it nice and tight, and you're just going to kind of tuck those ends in so that they aren't really visible. This is a ribbon here. I just chose these because they were very nice spring colors, and I'm actually going to start with my wider one. Now the ribbon part is quite easy. You know, we just pick a spot and we just kind of tie it to that frame, and we're just going to start weaving it around through our metal frame and just kind of layering it on top of the burlap. And then since I'm not going to glue on my flowers, even if I was, I'm still going to take a moment just to practice my placements so I can figure out where I want them. So I'm going to start with my flowers, and then I will put my bird in. So if you're gluing them, of course, just cut the stem fairly close to the top and just put a little glob of hot glue there and push it in. But if you want to be able to change it out, you are just going to bend and poke those wires through around the metal of the frame. So I hope yours turned out just as awesome as mine did here, and thanks for working with me today. Bye-bye.